Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about applications involving linear equations. Sorry that the first one's already done. I started recording this one and then had a technical issue, so I had to restart, but it's still done, so I'm just going to walk you through it real quick, and then we'll continue on. This video will be it'll be kind of building on what we did a few chapters ago where we were writing algebraic expressions from sentences, except we're just going to be solving them this time. Okay, so the first one said the sum of a number and 32 is subtracted from 75 and the result is 20. Find what the number is. Okay, so the word is always will break up expressions that we have. Because is usually means is either used to mean equals or it'll tell us what's happening. So before the word is in the first sentence, we have the sum of some number, which we don't know. It's just some number and 32. So that's why it's x plus 32. It's just some number plus 32. And the reason I put it in parentheses here is because it has to stay together. It's the sum that's it's a sum that's happening here. And then it said it says is subtracted from 75. So when we're saying it's subtracted from 75, we're starting with 75, then we're subtracting this entire sum of a number and 32, and then the result is 20, so it's all equal to 20. So now that we have an expression, we can solve it. We'd start by distributing the negative into the parentheses, so we'd end up with 75 minus x minus 32 equals 20. And then I got cut off here, almost done with the problem. We have 75 minus 32 is 43. We can combine those like terms. So we're left with 43 minus x equals 20. So we can subtract 43 from both sides, which would leave us with negative x equals negative 23. And then if we divide by negative 1 on both sides to get rid of the negative, we are left with x equals 23. So our number is 23. Okay, moving right along here, let's divide up this sentence as well. Okay, so let's find where the word is in the expression sentence. It's right there. So now let's see what's around it to create our expressions. So we have 8 more than 3 times a number. So in green, we have 8 more than 3 times a number. More than means we're going to add. So 8 more than means we're going to add 8. And then 3 times a number, if we call our number n, we just have 3n. And then plus 8, because 8 more than 3 times the number, which means we would add 8 to that. Then is is in this sense means equals, because it's dividing these two expressions, or it's dividing these two expressions in the sentence, but it's in between them, so we're going to set them equal to each other. And then we have 8 less than 4 times the number. So we have the same number. We're multiplying it by 4. And then 8 less than means we're subtracting 8 from it. And now we have an expression that we can solve, or we can evaluate and solve for. So let's start by getting our variables together on one side. So I'm going to subtract 3n from both sides. So we're going to be left with 8 is equal to n minus 8. All that's left is to add 8 to both, or is to add 8 to both sides to get n by itself. So we're going to be left with n is equal to 16. And if you want to, you can check it based on our expression. We'd have 3 times 16. We'd have to check that 3 times 16 plus 8 is equal to 4 times 16 minus 8. On both sides of the expression, you'd get 56. So it works out. This number is correct, and our answer is correct. Okay, next one is a little bit different of a problem because it's talking about a shape. We're throwing in a little bit of geometry here, but it works out. Nothing to be scared of. Maybe be a little scared, but not too scared. It's okay. It's almost spooky times, so maybe be a little scared. But the length of a rectangle is 12 feet. The area is 40 feet squared. What is the width? Okay, so we are given that the length of a rectangle is 12 feet. The area is 40 square feet or 40 feet squared. And we don't know what the width is, but we want to. So what we need to do is we need to think if there's any kind of formula that that involves the length and width and area of a rectangle. Well, let's think. We know that the area of a rectangle is length times width. We have the area and we have the length, and we need to know what the width is. So that works out for us because now we can plug all those things in. So now we have 40, because that's the area, is equal to 12W. Now we just have to divide by 12 on both sides. So we have W equal to, okay, so 12 doesn't go into 40 evenly, but let's try to simplify that fraction a little bit. We know that 4 goes into both 40 and 12. So if we divide that out from both of those, we would be left with W is equal to 10 over 3 feet, but you usually don't think about feet like, measurements like that. So we can approximate this to be about 3.33 feet. And the reason I have to approximate that when we change it to a decimal is because if you actually carry out 10 divided by 3, you're going to get 3.3 repeating. So there's going to be an infinite 3 in the decimal place. So we have to approximate it when we round down like that. Okay. So now it says, similar thing, we have a problem involving a shape again. The perimeter of a rectangle is 88 centimeters. The width is 8 centimeters shorter than the length. Okay. So once again, let's identify where the word is. Okay. So we know that, let's look at what's on each side. Perimeter, which we'll call P, is means equals here, 88 centimeters. The width, which we can call W, is 8 centimeters shorter than the length, which means if we call the length L, the width is 8 centimeters shorter than that, so we'd subtract 8 from from L. And that's also in centimeters. Okay, and we also know that the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So we want to know what the dimensions are, so let's plug in what we have. We'll just call the length L. We don't know what it is, but we know the perimeter is 88. We don't know the length, but we do know the width is the length minus 8. So that kind of helps us out a little bit. So we can distribute, or it helps us out just in the sense that now we don't have 2 unknowns, we just have 1 unknown, 1 variable to work with, so we can actually solve this equation for the length. So now we have 88 is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times length minus 16. We can combine like terms now. 2L plus 2L is 4L. So we have 88 is equal to 4 times the length minus 16. And we can add 16 to both sides now to get 4L by itself. So we'd be left with 104 is equal to 4L. Dividing by 4 on both sides would give us the length equals 26 centimeters. And now we have a formula for the width. The width would be the length minus 8, or 26 minus 8, which equals 18 centimeters. Okay, so those are dimensions. The dimensions of the rectangle would be 26 by 18, 18 by 26, however you wanted to think about it. God bless, I swear this computer really doesn't like me sometimes. Okay, so now we have, it says there are 3 consecutive even integers such that twice the sum of the first 2 is 3 times the third. Okay, so this one's a little bit different. It's a similar idea, but it's a little different. So we know we have three numbers. Goodness gracious. I don't know why this doesn't like to work sometimes. Okay, but it says three consecutive even integers. So, and for example, that'd be like 2, 4, 6, 4, 6, 8, 8, 10, 12, 12, 14, 16. Three even integers in a row. That just means that they're it's the three in a row. Any three even integers in a row. So if we want to think about this one, we know that we can call the first one n. But to get to the next even integer, if you think about the pattern we just did, you'd have to add 2 to it. So that'd get you to the next even integer. And then to get you to even the next one after that, you would have to add 4 because it'd be n plus 2 plus 2. So it'd be, this one would be n plus 4. Okay, so now if we think of the expression we have, we have these such that twice the sum of the first two, which means 2 times the sum of the first two means equals 3 times the third, which is 3 times the third. So if we substitute in what we have for those now, we'd have 2 times n plus 2 is equal to 3 times n plus 4. So n plus, we can simplify with some parentheses a little bit here. We have 2 times 2n plus 2 is equal to 3 times n plus 4. Okay, so now we can distribute on both sides. 2 times the quantity n plus 2 would give us, oh, I'm sorry, that's not right. We have 4n plus 4 is equal to 3n plus 12. And then we want to get all the variables on one side and all the numbers on the other side, which would give us n plus 4 is equal to 12. So now we can see that n equals 8. So they want us to know all three numbers. We know the first one now. So we know that the first one is equal to 8. So then 8 plus 2 would be 10. And then 8 plus 4 would be 12. So the three consecutive even integers that satisfy the expression that we just wrote down are 8, 10, and 12. Okay, so it says Cameron invests $3,600. And then at the end of 1 year, he has earned $144 in interest. So what was the rate of return on his investment? Okay, so everyone, excuse me for just a second here. Sorry, I just had to look for something for just a minute. Okay. Sorry, it's been a hot second since I have done interest or like the financial stuff. So I just had to look up the interest formula for a moment and I have it now. Okay. Okay. So now that I have the interest formula, I can help you out. So interest, which I'll call I, is equal to the principal times the rate times the time, which you may have seen before. I know I have, it's just been a minute. Okay, so Cameron starts off investing $3,600. So that would be the principal. So we know P equals $3,600. Says at the end of 1 year, he has earned $144 in interest. So they also gave us the interest. And they also gave us the time because they said after 1 year. So the time is equal to 1 year. And then the only thing that we have left to solve for is the rate. So we have 144 is equal to 3,600 times the rate times 1. So we're left with 144 equals 3,600 times R. So all that we have left to do is divide by 3,600 both sides. And if you do that, I just use a calculator for that because I'm not dividing that by hand. That does not seem like a fun time. Is equal to 0.04. Or if you wanted to talk about it in terms of what you may have heard before as a percent, this would be equal to 4%. Because to get the percentage, you just multiply by 100. So it's the rate is 4% or 0.04. And that would answer that question for us. Okay, so it says the area of a triangle is 368 square centimeters. If the triangle has a height of 32 centimeters, how long is the triangle's base? Okay, so in this one, we want to think again about what we know. We know that first and foremost, we want to find where we have the word is or has. Okay, so we have that the area is or equals 368 square centimeters. We know that the height has a height or the height is 32 centimeters. They want us to find what the base is because we don't know yet. But let's think about what we have as far as for triangles. We know that the area is 1/2 times base times height. Well, we have the area and height, so we just need to solve for the base. So we can do this with this formula. So we'd have 368 is equal to 1/2. We don't know the base, but we have the height, which is 32, and then we have times the base. So we're going to have 368 is equal to 16 times the base. If you divide by 16 on both sides, you'll be left with the base equals 23 centimeters. Okay, so it says Nora is 4 times older than Rebecca. The sum of their ages is 25. How old is Nora? All right, so let's do this. Okay, so let's let Nora be N and Rebecca be R. Let's let those represent their ages. It says Nora is, so Nora's age, she's 4 times older than Rebecca, so it would be 4 times Rebecca's age. And we also know that the sum of their ages, or N plus R, is 25. It's equal to 25. So now we have a separate expression for N that we can substitute in, so we only have one variable to solve for. So we have, but actually they want us to solve for Nora's age. So what we can do is we can we can fix this so that we know an expression for R that involves N. So we can divide by 4. So we have R equals 1/4 N. So then we have N plus 1/4 N is equal to 25. So now 1 in terms of fourths is 4/4. So we have, if we combine like terms, we'll have 5/4 N equal to 25. And now to solve, we have to multiply by the reciprocal of this fraction. But if we cross cancel, this becomes 1, this becomes 5, which would mean that N is equal to 5 times 4, so N is equal to 20 years. So that means that Nora is 20 years old. And that then Rebecca would be 5 years old. Okay, so it says in a certain triangle, the longest side is 7 more than twice the shortest side, and the middle side is 5 more than the shortest side. If the triangle's perimeter is 28, then how long are the sides of the triangle? Okay, so okay, so it looks like they're talking about the dimensions of the triangle based on the shortest side. So let's let x equal the shortest side. We know, or then it says the longest side, which we can call y, is 7 more than twice the shortest side. So that's twice the shortest side, and then we're adding 7 to it. And it says the middle side, which we can call z, is 5 more than the shortest side. So that'd be taking the shortest side and adding 5. And then it says the perimeter is equal to 28, or 28 units. Well, we know that the perimeter of a triangle is just the sum of the sides. Same with the perimeter of any shape. It's just the sum of the lengths of the sides. So we have an expression now that we can use, and we'll only have one unknown because we can substitute what we have. So we have 28. X is just itself. We know that y is 2x plus 7, and then z is 5. We can do this so that we only have one unknown. Sorry, that plus sign is a little crooked. It looks like a multiplication sign, but it is not. It is a plus sign. Okay, so now that we have this, we can combine like terms. X plus 2x plus x is 4x. And then 7 plus 5 is 12. So if we subtract 12 from both sides to get 4x by itself, we're going to have 16 is equal to 4x, which would mean that x is equal to 4. So that would mean y is equal to 2 times 4 plus 7, or 15, and that z is equal to 4 plus 5, or 9. And so now we have how long all the sides are. Okay, so this is a kind of a similar problem. It's not quite as explicit as the last one. It's a similar problem to the last one that dealt with these. So we're going to be using the same formula. Okay, so the time again is 1 year. We don't know what the rate is. It's asking us what the rate is. We know that he starts off, he invests at the beginning, which is the principal. Is $30,000. Now, in order to find what the interest is, or how much interest he accrued, it says he sold his stock at the end of the year, or his stock at the end of the year was worth $20,000, which means that his interest, or the difference of those, would be negative $10,000, because he lost money. So the interest is not positive. The interest is only positive if you gain money, but it's negative if you lose money. So now we'd have negative 10,000 is equal to 30,000 times the rate times the time, which is just 1, so we don't have to include it there. And then we just have to divide by 30,000 on both sides. So the rate would be negative 1/3, or negative 0.3 repeating. But if we rounded it to the nearest 10th of a percent, or to the nearest 10th, or I'm sorry, 0.3 repeating. But if we rounded it to the nearest 10th of a percent, which would be multiplying by 100, we'd have, sorry, goodness gracious. Would be negative 33.3%. Okay. So I just got a notification. I just had to double check that on here real fast to make sure it wasn't anything important. Okay. So now it says, if you wish to travel 2,800 miles in 5 hours, what should your average speed be? And what kind of transportation should you use? Okay, so in this case, This is kind of a physics application problem where we're going to be using the distance formula, where distance equals the average rate times time, where rate in this case means your speed. Excuse me. So we know the distance is 2,800 miles. We don't know what the rate is. We want to figure that out, and the time equal to 5 hours. So we're trying to find speed in miles per hour here, as is usually customary, at least for us here. So we have 2,800 is equal to 5R. We're dividing by 5. So the rate is 2,800 divided by 5, which is a pretty big number. Which would be 560 miles per hour. So that'd be the speed, the average speed you'd want to travel there. And if that's the case, you'd probably want to use a plane, because I'm not too familiar with any other like land vehicles that are widely accessible to us that can go that fast. So you'd probably want to take a plane there. Okay, so it says Tom had psychology test scores of 65, 72, 63, and 78. There is one test left. To get a passing grade of at least 70%, what's the lowest score that Tom can get on his 5th test? Okay. So his passing grade is made up of the average of all the tests. So what we know is the percentages that he's gotten on the last 4, and he has 1 left. So let's call the unknown test X. And so we also know he needs to end up with 70. So to do this, in order to solve an average, you have to add up all of the items and then divide by the number of items. So we know there are 5 tests. Or 5 test scores, or 5 tests. So we have 65, 72, 63, 78, and then we have X, because we don't know what the 5th one is yet. We're trying to figure out what he needs. There's 5 test scores in general, so we have to divide by 5 because it's the average. We want the average of the test scores, and we know the average needs to be a 70 so that he can pass. Or that would be the lowest he can get to pass. So now we just have to solve for X. So I'm sorry, trying to get my calculator out here. We need to combine like terms. We have 65 plus 72 plus 63 plus 78. So we're left with 278 plus X over 5 is equal to 70. So we can multiply by 5 on both sides to get it out of the denominator over here. So we have 278 plus X is equal to 350. Now we just have to subtract 278 from both sides, which would mean that X is 72. So that means that the lowest grade he can get on the 5th test to still pass the class is a 72%. So he can get a 72 or higher and pass the class. Okay, last one. It says Uhura, that's quite the math name here. Uhura earns $75 per day plus a commission of 8% of that day's sales. If she earns $183.56 one day, what was her sales total for the day? Okay, so we know that she earns she earns $75 per day and then 8% of the sales, or and also 8% of the sales. So what we have, we don't know what the sales are. We want to figure that out. I'm sorry, I cannot for the life of me write an S without it looking like a 5. So I'm going to call the sales C. We're just for the sake of legibility here and for the lack of confusion in terms of when I write a 5 and an S. Okay, so we want, or we're looking for the total. So we know, or like her total, or like an equation to do this. So we want to think of the total money she made. So the total for the day, it said, is always $75. She always makes $75, and then she has her commission added onto it, which is 8% or 0.08 times the amount of sales that she makes. So we don't know what the sales are, but we do know the total. We know that the total is $183.56, and that's equal to $75 plus her commission, which is 8% times the sales. So let's start by subtracting Let's start by subtracting 75 from both sides to get the variable to isolate the variable. So we have 108.56 is equal to 0.08 C. Okay, so now we have to divide by 0.08. So we divide by that on both sides. We have C, or her sales are $1,357, which means apparently she sold a lot, or she works somewhere expensive. So if that's what she made for the day, then she had to sell $1,357 worth of stuff. That is the end for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.